Hundreds of threats and insults from as far away as Idaho. That's what one CMS board member is dealing with after guidelines suggested teachers not call students boys or girls. And we first told you about those guidelines last week. Today, Eyewitness News anchor Liz Foster found out about the huge backlash surrounding it. Liz?
In just 24 hours, the NC Values Coalition will hold a rally before CMS's board meeting here at the Government Center. They're going to protest the district's new guidelines. And I learned board members are hearing backlash across the country.
People from as far away as Idaho have called and emailed Charlotte-Mecklenburg school leaders, lashing out over the district's new anti-bullying guidelines.
I've had people say that I will burn in hell, that the punishment for what I'm doing is death.
CMS board member Rhonda Lennon posted on Facebook that she has been inundated with backlash. She told me today there wasn't a policy decision by the board. District staff made the regulations as a guide for principals to be sensitive to transgender students. As Channel 9 reported last week, the district is recommending principals enforce several anti-bullying rules, including school staff calling children not girls and boys, but students and scholars, and allowing students to participate in extracurricular activities and overnight field trips based on their gender identity. I talked to Superintendent Ann Clark about those guidelines, but aside from telling me some of the issues will be decided by the Supreme Court, she walked away.
So we will strictly adhere to the guidance from our court systems as we've done every step of the way. That's it.
Can I ask a couple more quick questions?
Gotta go.
As of now, CMS is delaying new rules that would let transgender students use school bathrooms and locker rooms based on the sex they identify with.
Blue for boys and pink for girls is, for some people, becoming a thing of the past.
More and more parents are opting for gender-neutral clothing for their babies. As CBS 2's Cindy Hsu shows us, blurring gender roles early may be beneficial in the long run.
Pink and pretty for girls, rough and tough for boys. For Haley Woods and a growing number of parents, they see clothes as an opportunity to help shape their kids.
You get dressed?
Woods tries to buy gender-neutral clothes, a term that's been gaining popularity.
We really need gender-neutral clothing to start at this age because we're building up on how to start dismantling, sexism and misogyny and all that stuff. And it really does start from this tiny building block.
Psychologist Dr. Jennifer Hartstein is the author of the book Princess Recovery, a how-to guide to raising strong, empowered girls. She says the key is not to put kids in gender-specific boxes, from what they wear to what's expected of them.
If we only look at girls as being cute and pretty, we really pigeonhole them, and we know that as they get older, it can develop into eating disorders and depression and anxiety. It's not about taking away the princesses and saying you must have a truck. It's really about saying you want to play with princesses, awesome. What other options are there for you?
Some frustrated parents who want more choices have started their own small online companies. Courtney Hartman created children's clothing lines that defy gender norms after getting tired of seeing the same things over and over again.
The slogan tees in the boys section of big retailers. You see a lot of words like troublemaker, mommy's little monster, tough like daddy.
She's hoping her designs will give parents more options to chase away the clothing blues. Cindy Hsu, CBS 2 News.
Several major retailers like Kohl's, Baby Gap, and Target already offer gender-neutral baby clothes shopping options on their website.
On Monday, Alabama's Supreme Court judge was greeted with applause as he entered the courtroom, but he was not there to hear a case. Judge Roy Moore was attending his hearing to be impeached.
The hearing drew supporters of Roy Moore and those critical of his role in Alabama's debate over same-sex marriage.
That they will reinstate Judge Moore, plainly and simply. And if they don't, we're going to encourage him to run for governor. I can promise you that.
Moore was suspended from the bench in May after the Alabama Judicial Inquiry Commission found he had encouraged state judges to disregard federal law. Today's hearing included Moore's attorney's argument that the case should be dismissed because the charges are without merit. Representatives of the State Judicial Commission argued Moore should be removed from the bench for refusing to follow the law. In January, 6 months after the U.S. Supreme Court legalized gay marriage, Moore told state probate judges that a ban on issuing same-sex marriage licenses was still in effect because the Alabama Supreme Court had not ruled on the matter. Moore told the crowd gathered outside after the hearing that he'd not broken any law, and he criticized the Judicial Inquiry Commission, saying, "It took joy in this."
This is Chris Mosier. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Chris is the first transgender athlete to make the men's national team. Hey, Chris, how'd you know you'd be fast enough to compete against men?
I didn't.
Or strong enough?
I didn't.
Yeah, but how'd you know the team would accept you?
I didn't.
Or that you'd even be allowed to compete?
I didn't.
That must have been tough. Didn't you ever just want to give up?
Yeah, but I didn't.
An American is one of 2 university professors kidnapped in Afghanistan. Security officials say the unidentified victim was with an Australian colleague in Kabul last night when they were abducted. They are professors at the American University of Afghanistan.
Good morning. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul has confirmed that an American citizen was kidnapped near the university. They're withholding his identity for now. Afghan officials tell CBS News a number of gunmen in military-type fatigues forced the 2 professors out of their SUV at gunpoint. Though kidnapping is sometimes the work of criminal gangs, the fear here is that they could be sold up to the Taliban or ISIS, which has been fighting to gain a hold in Afghanistan. ISIS claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing of a rally in Kabul last month that killed more than 80 people. And just last week, they released photos purporting to show weapons and equipment seized from American forces, including an ID card of a U.S. soldier. Now, the U.S. military in Kabul said that soldier is safe with his unit and on active duty. But the Taliban remains on the attack, too, bombing a compound housing foreigners last week. Recently, police in Kabul advised foreigners to travel with armed guards and armored vehicles, warning their targets, and the kidnap threat is high.
Europe has suffered a spate of horrific attacks in recent days and weeks. The deadliest in the French resort of Nice when a truck plowed into a crowd, killing 85 during Bastille Day celebrations. There have also been 4 separate assaults across Germany, assailants using axes, machetes, guns and bombs. And 2 weeks ago, armed men burst into a French church and cut the throat of a priest. Now, the latest attack hit the southern Belgian city of Charleroi, where an assailant with a machete left 2 police officers injured. Islamic State claimed responsibility. However, the relatively low-key mainstream media coverage of just the latest terror attack on the continent perhaps suggests Europeans are now finally realizing terrorism as an almost daily threat.
Guns in Paris, bombs in Brussels, knives in London, and now a machete-wielding attacker slashing at police in the provincial Belgian city of Charleroi. And in Belgium, at least, people are no longer surprised. It's market day here in Charleroi. People are out enjoying time with their families as usual, in defiance of the weekend's events. But underneath it all, there is a fatalism. Many of the people I spoke to said they had known it would only be a matter of time before terror hit their streets.
After all that's going on in some countries, it had to happen. And I said to my friends, one of these days something is going to happen. And everyone said, oh no, that won't happen here. And what do you know? A few months later, it happens.
I had been expecting it for a long time.
The media talks about it so much that it has become something quite common. We hadn't had it here yet, so here we go.
In Charleroi, though, the media didn't come. Sunday morning saw a couple of local TV crews outside the police station where the attack took place, but by the afternoon they'd all gone, a stark contrast to previous attacks.
Now in international news, a suicide bomber has killed scores of people and wounded even more at a hospital in Pakistan. Both the Pakistani Taliban and the Islamic State militant group have claimed responsibility for the attack.
A bomb attack at a hospital in Pakistan's southwest has left at least 70 people dead and 120 others injured, many seriously. The suicide bomber struck as a crowd of lawyers and journalists crammed into a hospital in the city of Quetta. The group had gathered outside the emergency room to mourn the death of Bilal Anakasi, a prominent lawyer and a president of the local bar association who was shot earlier in the day.
As soon as I reached the gate, there was a blast and people came running out. I left my bike there, and as I entered, I saw dead bodies scattered all over the place. There was blood all over and injured people covered in blood.
A splinter group of the Pakistani Taliban Jamaat-ul-Ahrar has claimed responsibility for the bombing, as well as the shooting of the lawyer, pledging to, quote, continue carrying out such attacks until the imposition of the Islamic system in the country. The attack was also claimed by the regional branch of ISIS. The motive is unclear, but watchers say lawyers have been targeted during a recent spate of terror-related killings and militant violence in the area, linked to separatist conflicts as well as sectarian and ethnic tensions. Quetta is also known to be the base of the Afghan Taliban.
Around 50 protesters are shot dead by Ethiopian security forces as unrest over land rights deepens across the country's central Oromia region. The deaths come amid days of anti-government protests across 10 towns in the vast central region of Ethiopia. Protesters are demanding authorities reverse a decision to confiscate people's land. The demonstrators also want all detained opposition politicians to be released. The demonstration turned violent after police fired tear gas to disperse protesters. The months-long unrest comes amid government plans to confiscate farmland in the Oromia region surrounding the capital Addis Ababa for development plans. Authorities scrapped the plans, but unrest has persisted over the detention of demonstrators.
Japan's defense ministry has issued an open-ended intercept order for North Korean missiles to its military. According to Tokyo-based Kyodo News Agency on Monday, for the next 3 months, the nation's self-defense forces have been ordered to shoot down any ballistic missiles heading towards Japanese territory. Kyodo adds the interceptor missile systems will be set to full defense readiness using Aegis with Standard Missile 3 and PAC-3 Patriot missiles. The intercept order comes after a North Korean missile landed within Japan's exclusive economic zone for the first time ever last week.
Following up now on a previous story about China and Russia teaming up in the South China Sea, tensions continue to escalate with the West. According to Sputnik News, they're reporting, yes, following the Hague ruling on the South China Sea, Beijing has scored a diplomatic victory by softening up the ASEAN nations. And they say here that for its part, Russia has demonstrated its solidarity with Beijing by opposing the internationalization of the South China Sea dispute.
The presidents of Iran, Azerbaijan, and Russia have come together in a trilateral summit held in the Azeri capital, Baku. In his address at the meeting, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said that cooperation among neighboring countries is a priority in today's world. Rouhani went on to elaborate on Iran's foreign policy. He said that Tehran seeks to find fields of mutual interest with its neighbors and work on them based on a win-win policy. Russian President Vladimir Putin also stressed the significance of joint initiatives to strengthen stability and security in the region.
10 years after the 33-day war between Hezbollah and Israel, the Lebanese resistance movement has turned into a major anti-terror force in the region. Experts believe the experience Hezbollah fighters have gained in the Syria war have made them a greater challenge for Israel.
In the July 2006 war with Israel, Lebanon's resistance movement Hezbollah proved itself to be one of the most capable military forces in the region, inflicting heavy losses on the advanced Israeli army. Now, exactly 10 years after the war, the Lebanese resistance movement is seen as more formidable than ever. Hezbollah is said to possess an arsenal of over 100,000 missiles capable of striking any Israeli target. At the same time, the group has gained invaluable combat experience in the operations against Takfiri terrorists in Syria.
Within 3-4 years of the fighting in Syria, you can say that Hezbollah it was a very important, this battlefield in Syria, very important training for Hezbollah elements. Hezbollah now is 4 times more stronger than it was in 2006.